On this episode of Problems or Profits, we've got Mike Rosehart, Canada's youngest retiree, 24 years old.
My time's worth $500 an hour minimum. And talking to a JV partner about some trivial matter was not worth my time. And the money is important, but at the same time, you've got to be fulfilled. When everyone else is buying, you should be selling. When everyone else is selling, maybe look to buy.
You're crazy, Mike.
For the problems, right? So you can get to the profits.
Problems are what? Problems are profits!
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and we've got another sneak peek of the Problems and Profits podcast, and this is the best of the Mike Rosehart episode. So quick reminder, I recently launched a new podcast, the Problems or Profits podcast. Love for you guys to jump over, download it, give us a 5-star rating and a written review. And here's just a quick little clip of us chatting with Mike Rosehart, discussing, the evolving or the evolution of our goals, I guess, because again, this isn't, just a set destination. It really is a moving target that moves and grows and evolves with us as we move and grow and evolve as individuals. And in addition, we talk a little bit about the challenges of YouTube and YouTube trolls and prioritizing where to spend your time, because we've all only got 24 hours in a day. So let's jump into the best of Mike Rosehart.
And so, Mike, when you solved the money problem, and I think you did kind of solve the money problem the same way that I think Jacob from Early Retirement Extreme essentially solved the money problem, right? Like, very logical, rational approach to just hey, this is kind of how money and math works. As long as I do these things and I spend within this range, I'll essentially be good forever. So do you feel have you solved the money problem for life now? Is it once you solve it to a certain level, do you start going up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or do you start having, just a desire for more? What does that look like?
Yeah, it depends on the day. I think that you talk about the range of early retirements and fires, and people look at, what works for them. And they say, hey, I need $100,000 a year to be happy or whatever. And someone else says, hey, I need $50,000 a year to be happy. Speaking actually on happiness and money and how they kind of correlate, it's a bit off topic, but I was looking at a study that a friend had sent me, and it was a well-done study with 1 million participants and, statistically significant. And they actually tracked and for the first time disproved the common, in the research, it's always $75,000 is the happy mark. They went and did a bunch of research and found that actually wasn't true, and that people were subjectively, and I guess it's all subjective, right? You have to ask people how they feel, but subjectively, people up to even $400,000 and $500,000 a year in income were happier. So that was interesting to see that, I don't know if it's maybe because they're living in high cost of living areas that they're finding more improvement from having that extra, liquidity and money to do whatever they want with their life. But yeah, I think that I've certainly found as I grew along that trajectory that my initial hypothesis was that you'd max out and there would be no more happiness for more money. And so why would you chase more money? But now I kind of equate money in some ways to different levels of self-actualization. So what I mean by that is let's say, you wanted to get in the room with the right person and you had a lot of money, you could accomplish that goal. It has nothing to do with money, but they won't talk to you if you don't have that hurdle. Or let's say you didn't like something about society and you had a lot of money, you could then have influence, power to change that law or that issue in society. Or let's say you had a family member that gets sick. And if you have that extra, fat fire money sitting aside, you can take care of that. And so for me, it's about having more options. It's about having that abundance life. And so that's what kind of pushes me to keep going. And, and circling back to how much is enough, I don't know. I'm way, way wealthier than I thought I would be at this age. And I've achieved more than I thought I would be able to achieve. So do I just stop because I crushed all my goals? That to me doesn't feel like it's fulfilling. You need to set new goals. And so I think that's just part of being human, is that need to grow, right? And I think that a lot of us can measure objectively our success at whatever business venture we're chasing or whatever. If it's quantifiable with money, we can set a target and say, hey, if we can hit this monetary goal, then we've succeeded at that, right? So I think a lot of us attach money to some of our business goals and things like that. And so if we're succeeding in our business, then we're also succeeding on the money side. So it's tough, I think, to decide how much is enough. And I think that if you're in a job, at the same time, more money is more happiness. But if you're in a job that you're making $200,000 a year, let's say, and you're miserable, it's better, I think, to change to a job making $50,000 a year that you absolutely love. You wake up and you're like, hell yeah, I want to do this. This is the thing that I'm meant to be doing on this earth. And so I think that there's, in my opinion, the money is important, but at the same time, you've got to be fulfilled in what you're doing. And I think that money does go hand in hand with fulfillment. Like if you find that thing that you're fulfilled with, oftentimes, if you chase that, you'll make more money than you would have in a job that you don't enjoy. Not always the case, but often.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, you've actually transitioned from retiring 4 years ago to then 2 years ago, roughly, starting a YouTube channel, and you have now over 28,000 subscribers. So for you, how has that actually impacted your goals, and what have you really gained from now transitioning to giving away that content for free on YouTube? How has that started to transition and change your goals?
That's a good question. Almost 3 years ago,
I'd love to hear now, Mike, what's a problem you're currently working on turning into a profit? Like, what's a problem you're currently tackling?
That's a good one. I didn't really think of that beforehand, so I don't have anything off the top of my head, but
well, there's no way you're not doing anything these days. I know you
I'm
too
doing
well.
stuff. Like, I'm trying to think of how I'm making a profit, though. Like, one of the things I was doing was 75 hard. So I was working out like twice a day and trying to get into really good health. So that was something that, was a problem. My health wasn't optimized. So I didn't really make it into a profit, but I've been focused on that and trying to optimize lifestyle in that way. Just dealing with my kids is fantastic. It's not a problem, but there's definitely stress with being a dad. And I guess the profit or the payoff is that I'm going to have kids that are, well-adjusted, smart, awesome, achieving young individuals. And so I spend a lot of time with my kids. And that's something that, I spend 8 hours a day just trying to be a dad. And my wife's at home too. So we're focused on that. That's been a big piece, especially with COVID lockdown when schools were out. We were focused on her education, like my oldest's education. And so it's just been, in the business world, trying to outsource where I can, trying to enable and help my mentees through the things that they're struggling with. So in the evenings, we were coming up with, better ways to do things. It's forever a battle. There's a lot of grinding that goes on. And so, trying to find better systems to reduce the amount of grinding, trying to focus on, as far as problems go, optimizing my net worth distribution has been a big one that I've been trying to solve over the last year. And that resulted in me selling off a lot of properties last year. In hindsight, like if I'd known the market would appreciate even more, probably wouldn't have sold off like 20 properties last year. But getting out of those partnerships that I was in was a huge problem. It was a last year problem, but we'll talk about it anyway, I guess. Last year's problem was I had partners calling me and my time became too valuable. I decided, hey, my time's worth $500 an hour minimum. And talking to a JV partner about some trivial matter was not worth my time. And it was an expectation when we went into the joint venture partnership that I'd be that guy, right? That we'd have those conversations. And it's not that I didn't like the people. I actually enjoyed most of the partners I was with. But it's just my time became so valuable, I couldn't fulfill my end of the JV. So we had to find a way to sell, or in most cases sell. In some cases buy out each other, and then just set up systems where it's automated. I find that sole ownership is a lot easier now that my time's become more valuable. In the beginning, I didn't have access to capital as easily, and I didn't mind taking on the management role. So solving that problem of my time becoming really valuable has been paying off big time into late 2019 and early 2020. I think I have like 4 JVs left to get out of, or 5. So I'm really excited to get out of the last few JVs that I have, and it's just fantastic. Like I still have a little real estate portfolio. It's like 15 properties. It's not near as big as it was, but I have a huge stock portfolio now. And so it's great to be diversified and to have solved that. One of the problems was that owning real estate requires time. Even if you outsource, you have to manage the manager. And so there's a level of stress there that I didn't want to have. And with my stock portfolio, I'll occasionally go on and trade options or adjust my portfolio. It's a lot easier. And I actually am making more because I'm using leverage to buy stocks. So as an example, like let's say you're to buy like Enbridge at 7% dividend, you could lever that up with private banking 3 or 4 to 1, put 25% down and buy shares in that company. And now you're getting 25% return on your investment from dividends. So it's just like real estate. You're buying a 7 or 8 cap property that requires 0 work. And so I looked at stocks and was like, geez, I didn't know I could lever up and buy blue chip stocks. I thought you could only do that with real estate. But as I started to get to new levels of wealth, I realized that the wealthy tend to get giant lines of credits on their stock portfolios at like prime. I was like, geez, this is pretty cool. So I've just sort of shifted my mentality to high value time pursuits.
And have you found a big difference in jumping into the stock market in just your confidence to take on that risk, or has it been about the same comparable to real estate?
I think with the stock market, I actually feel safer with a diversified stock portfolio than I do in real estate, which I know that sounds weird, right? You're thinking like real estate's,
You're crazy, Mike. You've got no control with the stock market.
I have no control, but
Controversy.
there's comfort in diversity, right? So I like that I can own 1,000 different companies and pick all these great, awesome companies to be a part of. And I can let them, I outsource either way, right? I just believe that, either way, I'm going to have management's terrible no matter, even if you outsource your real estate portfolio, property managers are terrible. Most of them don't care for your property the way that you do, right? And so at my level, I have to decide, like, if I'm not going to invest any time into real estate or stocks, and I'm going to outsource either way, the only advantage to buying real estate versus a REIT is that I can buy under market, and I can tweak maybe the deal, I can lever a little better. But honestly, like, I can also go in private banking and buy a REIT levered 4-to-1, and I get 40% distribution paid out. So like you can get a 30-40% ROI passively buying into a REIT. And so it could make sense to buy a REIT if you didn't have a competitive advantage in the market. Let's say you couldn't find any deals. You didn't have a wholesale company, you couldn't find any deals. Buy MLS overpriced with almost no cash flow, or buy a REIT levered with 30% ROI. I mean, there are situations where sometimes outsourcing management, if your time is valuable, can make sense. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still have a good sized real estate portfolio, and I do believe in real estate for sure. I just like to have safety and being in other asset classes too, for sure. And it's nice to get those dividend checks for no work. Like, just feels great.
If you guys enjoyed this video, a reminder, this is all based upon the Problems and Profits podcast. There's a link in the video description down below. Go grab it, listen wherever you listen to podcasts, and we would love a written review and a 5-star rating. That's all we really ask. Hope you guys enjoy it, and there's a lot more of this, so make sure you subscribe, and we'll be coming out with episodes every week.
Problems are what? Problems are profits!